Intake of dry grass is such a key profit driver, but why is intake so important? It doesn't matter if we're grazing oats on a feedlot ration or cattle grazing dry or frosted grass. Intake still dictates daily weight gain or loss, and at the end of the day, this is what determines profit. Hi, I'm Gary Zerner, and in the next few minutes I'll run through 5 key points that will have a huge impact on either the state of your breeders over the next 3 to 4 months or how close your young trade cattle are to going out the front gate. Number 1. Now I mentioned intake because I believe it's critical. The more grass they eat, even when it's dry, the better. I still want weight gain during winter. I mentioned minimising weight loss because in some areas, in tough times, stock will lose condition, though we aim to avoid that by acting early because it's harder to turn stock around when they start to slip from an energy deficiency. Now we are talking about grazing permanent pastures this autumn-winter period. Feed is rapidly changing. Some areas are still green, some areas have already had a frost. The grass is changing and at this time of year quickly becomes higher in lignin and less digestible. How do we know? It's not just the look of the paddock. I like to look at the paddock in combination with what the manure is telling us. As manure starts to stack up, we know that fibre in the feed has increased and becomes a limiting factor for intake. For sheep, act early because you're reliant on the visual appearance of the feed. Take note of what part of the plant they are grazing, as this will influence the feed quality at the moment. If there's some green material underneath, that can make a difference, especially for sheep. The concept of supplementation for autumn and winter is assisting cattle and sheep to utilise and eat more grass. As feed matures, fibre levels in the plant rise and protein levels rapidly fall. To maintain milk production or weight gain, we have to supply the rumen of our sheep and cattle with adequate protein to support the rumen microbes to do their job. You've probably heard the term rumen stimulation, or we also talk about appetite stimulation. Because at this time of year, we are recommending you change from a mineral or green feed type supplement to a product that is still going to deliver all key minerals, but also supply a protein source. Number 2. Okay, let's talk about protein. This is the broader term that's used, and you'll notice with the Megamin dry feed and protein supplements that we have products that use some urea, not high rates, but more importantly include a source of protected protein meals. Firstly, I want to clarify urea. Urea is not a protein, it is a source of ammonia for the rumen microbes. We're talking about maintaining adequate rumen ammonia levels, and we can do this with a protein meal and with a combination of a protein meal with a small amount of urea. You won't see an Ag Solutions Megamin product that is just based on high urea. We don't agree with it, and the fact is that urea disappears rapidly in the rumen. We're talking about extended rumen stimulation. Hence, that is why our dry feed supplements that contain urea are also partnered with a protected protein meal. It's this protected protein meal that keeps the rumen microbes multiplying longer, which provides a longer appetite stimulation for your livestock to walk further and graze longer. The raw materials we use are carefully selected and contracted. We don't switch out raw materials because something is cheaper. This is how we ensure that you get consistency in the paddock. Number 3 is cents per day, one of my main messages. As I mentioned, you may be on the Megamin Extra Sulfur or Magnesium right now, and that should be running at 5 to 15 cents a day for cattle. But when the paddock and manure tells us it's time to switch to a dry feed protein supplement, our cents per head per day will increase to 20 to 40 cents a day, depending on intake and the size of the animal. And for sheep, we're going from say 1 cent a day to only a few cents per day. This increase in cents per day at this time of year is because we are now not only delivering minerals, but we're also delivering protein, ammonia, and often vitamins and rumen modifiers to get maximum response and intake on dry feed, hence our cents per day increase. I think of it as an investment, and ultimately we're talking about the right product for the right time to do a job out there in the paddock. Point number 4 focuses on farmers like you who've experienced Megamin. Have a listen to Jeff Elder, as he's a grazier who's been involved with developing some of our newer dry feed supplements over the years, particularly back in the drought of 2014.
I'm Jeff Elder. My wife and I are beef cattle farmers north of Dalby on the Darling Downs. We run mainly Angus cattle on our block, and we supplement using Ag Solutions mainly for two reasons: to get our females back in calf, and we do run a lot of little weaner type cattle that we need to get kilos on in a hurry. They're mainly run across either oats or lucerne, and at the end of the day, the quicker we can get the kilos on them and out the gate, the next lot's in. So that's the beauty of our supplementations we're finding. The 13-14 was very dry, and we hadn't budgeted on using a lot of lick for a long time. We ended up we did, and I think it was still a very good thing. Our preg test rate was still very high. I did a lot of work with Ag Solutions that year, mainly for the fact that to slow them down, I could buy any sort of salt urea lick I liked and just make it sourer and sourer. But I really wanted to keep the protein into them and make sure they're going to come out the other end, because they all weren't that far off calving when we were doing it. So the thing I liked about the Ag Solutions product is that they could custom make what I was going to need for my requirements at that time. That was very important, that there was no point just keeping on upping the urea intake to try and slow them down. I didn't think I was going to get much out of that. I was willing to spend a bit of money if I could get them out the other end, and I think we preg tested from memory about 96 or 98%. So I think the money was well spent doing that. I liked that I could work with the infield staff from Ag Solutions and get them to tailor what I needed. I enjoyed doing a lot of work with them, because we sort of went on and then made a few different licks that really suited this area, or suited my cattle. And obviously, from a selling point of view, a lot of people around the district could use them, and that was sort of what we were chasing, not just for my own cattle, but something that you could use in this district that you could see was going to be good for the cattle and keep them going, get their fertility going, and at the end of the day, having good nick coming out the other end to calve and be ready to go on that calf. So yeah, it was a challenging time, and it cost us a bit of money, but I think at the end of the day, it probably paid off.
Number 5 is the products and feeding. We have dry feed blocks and dry licks. Our dry licks or loose supplements include the Graze and Grow range, dry season breeder blend, and protein products without urea. First step, test the salt intake of your stock, as this will dictate which blend and assist all of us understand what we'll need to get intake right. I mentioned intake of feed. Intake of the supplement is just as important, because this is your cents per head per day. If your stock don't consume enough supplement, it won't give you the results. At the same time, if consumption is too high, we don't want you spending more on your supplement program than what you need to. Rainfall. It does still know how to rain, and yes, it's best to keep our loose licks dry to prevent spoilage, and there is urea in some of the blends, hence we must provide this warning. So either covered feeders or working around the rain when putting your lick out. Our dry feed lick blocks will handle the rain. They're not a high salt content block, hence they won't melt away in the rain. We talk about production supplementing as well, and in dry times or during winter, the Megamin Graze and Grow range act both as a dry feed supplement and as a production supplement for young stock. Minerals are still critical in dry times, as there are many minerals such as zinc, magnesium, sulfur, phosphorus and copper that influence metabolism and appetite. We also build vitamins into some of our dry feed protein supplements to cater for a lack of vitamins when stock are grazing dry feed for extended periods. We cater for pasture certified grazing operations. We also manufacture an organic livestock supplement range for our USDA organic clients. That's the 5 main points I wanted to cover briefly in this session: intake, protein, cents per day, a farmer's experience with success on Megamin, and finally, an overview of our dry feed product range. Talk to us though, because we are both a livestock and soil nutrition company, and we know that every place is slightly different, particularly when it comes to the influence of soil, water, and even pasture species on supplement intake. Based on current prices, sheep and cattle are certainly worth the investment of supplementing right now. And our job is to help you get the right product to match your conditions. But start early, as feed quality is changing. If you'd like to see more information, visit our website at agsolutions.com.au or call us on 1800 815757.